My name is Clippingere, and I live in Long Beach, California. I was originally introduced to Pilates in the early 1990s when I worked at a sports medicine clinic in Seattle. And many of the dancers that I was working with were telling me how much they were benefiting from it. And at conferences, I was seeing demonstrations of it being used for dance, and it really intrigued me because of the tremendous versatility that I saw in it. I was originally a dancer, and I think that was what drew Pilates to me originally. And I did my first studying of Pilates at San Francisco Center for Dance Medicine with Elizabeth Larkham. My introduction to Pilates, I think, was very natural in that the focus in my work prior to Pilates was on alignment and biomechanics and how technique can help prevent injury and optimize performance. So it felt a perfect match to shift into Pilates, where some of these values were admired and some very interesting and creative type of work was being done to try to improve these elements. And so after studying with Elizabeth Larkham, I started a Pilates Center for Pacific Northwest Ballet in Seattle, which is where I was working at that time, and stayed with that approach of working clinically for quite a few years. She was extremely generous with sharing protocols that they used at their center so that I could integrate it more in a rehab setting. And it wasn't until I moved down to California and started working at Loma Linda University Medical Center that I started becoming interested in getting some other perspectives in terms of Pilates. And that's when Rail and I met each other, and I started doing some lectures for him. It's part of his training programs, and we collaborated and started a program at Cal State Long Beach where he taught the classical and I taught the dance specific for several years. And then after that, I took over the program on my own and have been teaching it for 14 years. I think Pilates has tremendous value for all kinds of people of all different ages and all types of abilities. And I think one of the reasons I find it so useful is that it works on multiple elements at once. So not only does it work with strength, but also it's complemented by dynamic, or in some cases, some static flexibility exercises too. So an individual can really work hard to improve strength in an area, but then not lose needed flexibility. That is complemented by the attention to technique. And so there's a skill building in terms of neuromuscular coordination that can not only help someone with a specific need, say if they were a particular athlete or a dancer, to improve with those skills, but it helps neuromuscular coordination and core stability that can transfer in every dimension in your life. So I really feel that it has profound change in terms of your own sense of awareness of your body, of your alignment, and of balance between strength, flexibility, and skill. If someone were to come to me and ask me for advice to begin Pilates, I think the biggest suggestion I would make is go for the long run, right? And I see some people that come in and think they're going to get perfect bodies in 3 lessons, right? Or they go for the tricks and they want to do the really fancy stuff and feel great doing those tricks. But it's the depth and sticking with it over a period of time that you really see the changes that can occur. And I think it's going beyond the individual elements when you start seeing the underlying components and the elements and how they all connect, that fabric that pulls everything together, that you really realize the full benefits and the full significance of the Pilates lifestyle. One of the areas that I'm interested in addition to teaching, is writing or publications. And I originally wrote a textbook called Dance Anatomy and Kinesiology. And it was just republished, right? A second edition just came out in 2016. So a lot of work went into it. And I'm proud with the concept of trying to make it more accessible. It's streamlined some. It has online resources and references and outlines and sample exams. And so it's really being designed to provide a text for dance majors in various universities throughout the United States and the world, hopefully. But I also find and hope that many other people can benefit from it, and I get emails from Pilates instructors and yoga instructors and other people that feel that the aspects of talking about anatomy and clear pictures of muscles and talking about alignment and some common injuries can transfer to many other fields other than just dance. So one of my passions in writing this book was to try to make it more visual and give a lot of rich graphics so that people could really see what the words were talking about. And then to not just stop with the names of the elements, but to then try to take it and make it practical. How can this really benefit you? How can you improve certain alignment conditions? How can you improve certain technique? What are some underlying factors that might increase your risk for certain injuries? So it really is designed to be beyond anatomy in terms of learning names of things, but more the functional side of anatomy as how does anatomy play into movement, and how can you, with understanding more about movement and your body, better meet your personal goals. In addition to writing Dance Anatomy and Kinesiology, I also co-authored a book called Pilates Anatomy. And this has been an exciting experience for me because just recently I got a copy where it was translated into Chinese. And it has also been translated into French and Spanish and Portuguese and many different other languages, Korean. And so I'm really excited about the fact that people are finding it valuable in many different countries. What they tell me and what I am the most proud of is that we were able to use an illustrator so that we could really provide pictures of the muscles that are working in some of the classic Pilates mat work. And so in addition to thinking about, well, what muscle, you have a clear image to go with that of the main muscles that are going to be working. And it helps, I think, teachers to be able to think about, well, which is going to be best for a particular client. If I feel like they need strength in a particular area, which of these exercises is going to best meet that? So again, when we look at the big categories, we can say, oh, this is abdominals, and this is abdominals, and this is abdominals. But by looking more specifically at these pictures, I think you can see some of the more subtle differences. And in addition, I've really tried to work with making the cues relate to the anatomy, right? Relate to the muscles that are being used, and how you can think about cueing your students, or if you're reading it for yourself, how you can think about cueing yourself to try to maximize the benefits of the exercise. Outside of Pilates, I'm an avid lover of animals, particularly kitties. I'm a cat fan. And I've had the pleasure of petting tigers, big tiger, baby cub tigers, and baby lions, and a cheetah, and as well as having my tame domestic cat at home, who I love just as dearly. But I am very enthusiastic about traveling and seeing the wildlife in many different countries and areas and learning about them. And along with those lovely creatures, I love learning about culture and the arts. So I'm also an avid enthusiast of museums and cultural events and architecture and buildings. And so I am thrilled by traveling and having experiences of exploring the world, meeting people from different parts of the world, and learning more about their lives and the rich history of those areas. Pilates has really evolved over the years. So when I originally began it in the 90s, my goal was for it to help me become a better dancer, right? And it was very much oriented towards physical performance. I was also running and stretching, and so I wanted to enhance that and enhance my flexibility. But with aging, I've had it take on much more profound effects in terms of health in general. And so over the last decades, I've dealt with various things. I've had scoliosis all my life. I've had disc problems. I've had lateral spinal stenosis. And so far, I've been able to avoid surgery in all of those instances and be able to return to being pain-free and being able to do a wide range of exercises. So I've found it invaluable in terms of enhancing the quality of my life and allowing me to be able to do those things that I love, like traveling and walking, and not feeling that I'm being limited by my health. In terms of contacting me, the best way is through my website, www.carenclippingere.com, and that has my email on it, which is karen.clippingere@gmail.com. And I can send out lists of educational workshops and the various things that I'm doing. So in addition to teaching Pilates in an academic setting, a large percentage of my time now that I'm half retired is in teaching teachers, right? And this is very much based or inspired by my clinical work. So my topics are not just on dance or anatomy, but are oriented to some of those things like preventing low back pain and scoliosis and scapulohumeral rhythm and shoulder biomechanics and hip and knee biomechanics. So they're very oriented towards trying to bring that scientific knowledge from anatomy, from kinesiology, from biomechanics, and make it approachable and applicable to the many wonderful Pilates teachers that there are, so that I hope that it will enrich their teaching and allow them to be a little bit more specific and be able to individualize some of the exercises to even better meet the demands and the needs of their individual clients.